7 guests demonstrated that even the late-night king had his breaking point, despite Johnny Carson's laid-back demeanor behind the desk today. When Carson was at his best, his nightly viewership was higher than that of the NFL Monday night game. An audience that was used to interviews that resembled a conversation in the living room, easy charm, and humorous jokes. He was a hit on most evenings, but some celebs went too far and were kicked out of the studio for good. With false allegations, physical threats, and conduct so disruptive that Carson, the man who could defuse any bomb with a smile, decided they could never return. Their trips resulted in lifelong bans. The 7 figures who were banished in the events that led to their exile are listed below. Non-physical threats led to Wayne Newton's ban. Carson once said, "Brighter stage lights are being installed in Las Vegas. The hair of Wayne Newton requires photosynthesis." While the crowds yelled, Newton remained silent. After spending millions to buy the Aladdin Hotel, any harm to his meticulously constructed image was enough to trigger a reaction that would put an end to his Tonight Show career forever. Newton showed up at Burbank without warning on the day of taping in 1980. He was seen walking throughout hallways with a purpose, his fists clenched and his silk shirt unbuttoned on security tape. It was during a cue card review that he barged into Carson's office. "If you don't stop making jokes about me, Mr. Carson, I'll kick your ass." Then Carson quickly called security. He ordered that Wayne Newton not be allowed in this facility. The blacklist was immediate and final, and it was permanent. "No one, absolutely no one intimidates me in my own studio," Carson told close allies, but he never made the threat public. Newton's name was removed from any consideration of future bookings. NBC security was provided with memorandums that included Newton's picture and clear instructions. The script for that night removed all mention of Newton, not out of fear but out of policy. According to Carson, anyone who used physical force to intimidate someone else lost their right to watch network television. A fraud ban was imposed on Uri Geller. Carson hated anyone who claimed true supernatural skills because of his early magic tricks. Carson called famous skeptic James Randi to set up a complex test when spoon-bending psychic Uri Geller made an appearance in 1973. Randi supplied restaurant-quality cutlery, a marble compass, undamaged goods, and sealed film packaging. Bobby Quinn, the prop master, made sure everything was safe until the show. With a joyful sense of anticipation, Carson started. "We may even play some metal tonight, but we'll bend some minds." Geller, well-groomed, walked in exuding confidence. Carson asked him to find hidden drawings within sealed envelopes. With his eyes closed and papers pressed to his brow, Geller was obviously struggling. "I'm exhausted," he muttered feebly. The fervor of the audience diminished. After patiently waiting, Carson held out the spoon. There was no action. "He is now quite suspicious. I'm not getting along with you. I don't intend to be, do I? Actually, just keep searching. All okay, give me a little break. All right, you don't feel strong tonight, according to what your Uri told me. Tonight isn't everything. I'm feeling pressed right now, yet I can't." "Well, I'm not really trying to press you. You're just telling me, well, will you try that? Or anything similar?" No invitation to return would ever be sent. "We showed him on national TV as a phony," Carson told the filmmakers. "I won't give dishonesty another forum." Half of the thousands of viewer emails that flooded in praised the publicity, while the other half criticized Carson's strategy. As proof of NBC sabotage, Geller's other reservations skyrocketed. Carson retorted aggressively. "We exposed his deceit and brought him fortune, but he never heard from us again. Studio policy changed to prohibit." The Tonight Show provided props for any paranormal demonstrations. Carson enforced strict guest rules, and any who were proven to be scammers were permanently barred. Chevy Chase was banned for being conceited. During his first Tonight Show appearance in 1976, Chase made light fun of Carson's golf swing. Carson liked the timing of the visitor's humor. His 1978 comeback as Saturday Night Live's breakout star in Foul Play exposed the distorting power of celebrity. Commenced by displaying the box office figures, 3 days and 10 million. Quite remarkable for a weekend, isn't it? "You've got quite the comfortable little operation here," he said, pointing to the hosts. The audience laughed. Carson's face became notably tense. The guest area was promptly seized by Chase. Chase entirely ignored the movie and instead focused on celebrity meetings at Lax when Carson gave the normal prompt, "Tell us about the new movie." He went after Carson's well-known golf fixation. "It's likely that I could outdrive you and possibly outhost you as well." Uncomfortable murmurs and mixed laughs flooded the studio. Smiled gently, but the backstage workers saw the atmosphere grow cold. No respite was offered by the commercial break. At 11:30, Chase added to his boasting about future projects and offered to give NBC his contact details if they required new talent. He was exiled because of his remark. With a repetitive tapping of his pencil, Carson listened in silence, mentally deciding to put Chase on the blacklist. He then angrily addressed executive producer Peter LaSalle. "After 15 years of creating this institution, some children think he merits my job. This is where he's finished." Prohibition was enacted immediately. Hollywood picked up the lesson fast. Carson would exile you from his dominion forever if you suggested that you could take his place. Chase got the cold treatment right away. Calls to talent agents were no longer returned. In 1992, when Chase debuted his Fox late-night program, media asked about Carson's mentoring. Admitted to getting no correspondence at all. The Carson team attested to it. No phone calls, no letters, no public support, just significant silence. After 5 hectic weeks, the Chevy Chase show collapsed, and Tonight Show veterans looked at each other with suspicion. The 14-year restriction remained in effect and would last until Carson retired. If you mock the throne, you will never hold it. The predetermined rigidity of Bob Hope led to his ban. For television, Hope was ideal. Executives at NBC dubbed him a sponsor gold. However, this prince showed up in Burbank with the index cards that would eventually end his Tonight Show appearances. Hope's staff had planned jokes, made thick packs, recommended questioning techniques, endorsed products, and even knew the best camera angles for response shots. For Carson, whose genius came from spontaneous answers, this was like being handed sheet music during a jazz practice. Hope hardly acknowledged Johnny during the shoot. He concentrated on cue cards placed close to the camera lenses, waiting for Carson to set up for preset punchlines. Hope hesitated, checked his cards, and then delivered the prepared material regardless of the altered direction after Carson's one effort at impromptu follow-ups. Producers observed Carson's whitening knuckles around his pencil, but the result was polite laughter. A 1978 visit that included 3 Texaco comments in 7 minutes was the tipping moment. After saying, "Texaco gets more screen time than I do," Carson gave the filmmakers a deadline. "I refuse to do interviews that are actually infomercials." Despite dull parts, Hope had previously been shielded by his famous status. However, Carson had limits to his tolerance. Carson's successful effort for Hope's permanent dismissal is documented in internal documents. "He's not doing television," Carson countered. "He's laughing while he recites advertisements." NBC first protested. Although Hope's specials brought in millions of dollars from advertising, Carson vowed to quit if she had to put up with any more prearranged conversations. Network gave up. Received just progressively absent booking possibilities that lasted forever without any formal communication. After Hope's ban was implemented, staff noticed that the mood in Carson's dressing area returned to normal. Authenticity was mandatory, precedent was set, and even legends were banished for using The Tonight Show as a platform for their own advertisements. Charlton Heston's monopoly on airwaves led to his ban. Heston's arrogant treatment of interviews, which he handled like congressional proceedings, denied him a spot on Carson's guest list. Any injuries during those chariot sequences, Carson might ask Chuck. Heston would sit back and think about his early days on the ranch, his training in Yale Theater, and his attitude of artistic risk-taking, and 5 minutes later, he would reach the account of the broken ribs. Idly, the house band waited. With a courteous nod, Carson lost important airtime. Heston added more commentary and off-air footnotes during commercial breaks. Plutarch was referenced, Greek dramas were mentioned, and Johnny was urged to visit the NRA Museum. Quick question. Answer sessions were Carson's preference. The lectures Heston gave drained the audience and ruined momentum. After a program in 1987, the producers recorded 9 audience chuckles, which was much less than the usual 30. Ratings showed the harm. Heston's philosophical remarks drew fewer viewers every time they went beyond 60 seconds. Heston erupted into a 15-minute freedom dissertation amid a debate on cinematic violence, which finally caused Carson to lose patience. Following the incident, Carson complained to producers that he was running his own program inside my program. Furthermore, it isn't amusing. The ban was enforced immediately and firmly. Carson's group was given clear instructions. The guest rotation no longer included Charlton Heston. "He's a great actor and probably a good guy," Carson informed his booking agent. He approaches each query, however, as if it were his cue to deliver the Gettysburg Address. His publicist's inability to organize return appearances led Heston to learn of his exile indirectly. It was an obvious message. Not even Academy Award credentials could match the entertainment value. Carson didn't need professors who used late nights as their own stage. He needed visitors who understood television rhythm. Don Rickles' destructive behavior led to his ban. Viewers were delighted by Don Rickles' machine gun taunts, but his destructive behavior ultimately cost him a permanent place on The Tonight Show. He would attack before anybody could defend, tearing apart audience members, visitors, and even Carson himself. Then he would smile like a child who had broken a broken window. During Carson's vacation in 1976, Rickles was guest presenting when the deadly fracture occurred. While improvising to the audience, he cracked the lid of Johnny's cherished walnut cigarette box, which was a gift from a stagehand who had once rescued Carson from a studio fire. The following evening, Carson came back, found the broken memento, and used his frustration to make live jokes. "You shattered my box," he said as he strode onto the nearby CPO Sharky set, cameras following. Rickles squirmed, the crowd roared, and the video was aired by NBC for years. Carson, however, took stock off camera. Rickles broke props, disregarded timing lights, pushed gags that the censors had redlined, and wrecked segments. The term busted box arose to refer to a more serious headache. In 1985, Rickles' mockery of an obese woman in the front row served as the last straw, sparking a barrage of grievance letters. Carson informed his producers that it was hilarious and radioactive as well. He quietly imposed a lifelong ban. At gatherings, the two men were polite, but the doors of Studio One remained locked. "They no longer need danger pay," stagehands joked. There should be no injured egos or flying ashtrays. Evidence that even the late night king had to draw a boundary when the mayhem became too loud for amusement. Fred Rogers, banned due to pace issues. Fred Rogers seemed destined to win people over until it turned into a ratings disaster that led Carson to believe that some personalities weren't suitable for late-night television. The memo on schedule appeared to be ideal. A 5-minute chat and a quick neighborhood puppet show. Perfect break from segments promoting celebrities. But Rogers' arrival made the tempo discrepancy instantly apparent. In his distinctive Pittsburgh rhythm, he spoke after pausing in the middle of the stage and waving modestly. "I'm really grateful, pals. I'm really happy to be here." Because the floor crew was unable to tell if he had finished his welcome, the applause went on. Carson tried to start a conversation. "I lifted a polished loafer to show off dazzling whiteheads, Fred, and donned my sneakers in your honor." Roger replied with a kind grin, a handshake, and a very thoughtful response, "Johnny, with sneakers we can feel more prepared to play." The crowd chuckled, courteously waiting for Johnny to return. Not one appeared. Rogers thought his remarks were over. As Carson recovered, the control booth frantically changed camera angles. An awkward hush engulfed the punchline. All of the scheduled comedy beats were delayed by 30 seconds. Because the timing was no longer synced, cue card operators stopped making jokes. Rogers' responses were measured and patient, with 2-second breaks in between ideas, ideal for young children. The programming at 11:45 p.m. is terrible. As the program fell apart, Bobby Quinn, associate director of the control room, kept an eye on his stopwatch. At last, the commercial music began, and Carson let out a breath so hard that it frothed his desk. The commentary after the telecast was shocking. During Rogers' segment, Nielsen data showed a 3-point drop in audience size, minute by minute. Even though Fred Rogers is a living example of a saint, Carson concluded that night that saints fail. It was a professional preservation prohibition, not a personal one. They told the producers that Rogers would never come back. Carson told employees that some people are too moral for this profession and that it goes too fast for them. Although Rogers' appearance received hundreds of compliments via mail, Carson had learned his lesson. Even the best of efforts couldn't save bad television. Not out of malice, but out of mercy for the show and its audience, Rogers was never invited back to The Tonight Show. Geller's deceit, Chase's arrogance, Hope's scripts, Newton's intimidation, Rogers' pacing, Heston's monologues, Rickles' devastation, 7 troublemakers, and 7 permanent banishments were all examples of boundaries that Carson would not accept. These weren't your average personality conflicts. They were well-thought-out business choices that preserved Carson's sanity and the caliber of the show. Hollywood received a clear message from the bands. The Tonight Show had rules, and breaking them meant being banished from the most prominent stage in television for good. That embodies the secret art of entertaining, the ability to spot when amusement turns into destruction, and the fortitude to say never again.